The headlights cut through the darkness. Miles of empty road stretched ahead. Jack drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. He was tired, exhausted really, but he had to keep driving. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard. Almost midnight. He was running late, much later than he intended. A shiver ran down his spine. He wasn't superstitious, but he didn't like being out on this road at night. He had heard the stories. Everyone had. Route 666, the Devil's Highway. A place where strange things happened, where people disappeared. He shook his head, trying to dismiss the thoughts. Just silly stories. He turned up the radio, hoping to find some music to distract him. Static. He tried another station. More static. He sighed. Of course, even the radio didn't work out here. The wind howled outside, a mournful sound. It seemed to whisper his name. He rolled up his window, shutting out the sound. He could have sworn he felt a cold spot in the car. He rubbed his arms, trying to warm himself. He noticed movement out of the corner of his eye. Something white flickered by the side of the road. He slowed down, peering into the darkness. Nothing, just his imagination. He pressed on, his heart pounding in his chest. He wished he hadn't taken this shortcut. He should have stayed on the main highway, but it was too late now. The wind picked up again, louder this time. It seemed to be laughing at him, mocking him. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles turning white. He just wanted to get home. He saw her again, the girl in white, standing by the side of the road, her thumb outstretched. She looked so real this time. He could see the desperation in her eyes. He almost stopped. He hesitated, his foot hovering over the brake pedal. He knew he shouldn't stop. Not out here, not at night. But something about her. He couldn't leave her stranded. He pulled over to the side of the road, a safe distance behind her. He rolled down his window. "Are you okay?" he called out. "Do you need help?" She turned towards him, her face pale in the moonlight. Her eyes were dark and empty, soulless. He felt a chill run down his spine. He knew with a sinking feeling that he had made a terrible mistake. She smiled, a slow, creepy smile that sent shivers down his spine. He wanted to look away, to drive away as fast as he could, but he couldn't. He was frozen in place, trapped by her gaze. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice raspy and low. "You're so kind." She started to walk towards the car. He could see her more clearly now. Her dress was torn and dirty. Her hair was matted with blood. He slammed his foot on the accelerator, the car lurching forward. He didn't look back. He didn't want to see her face. He didn't want to know what she would do. He glanced in his rearview mirror, his heart pounding in his chest. She was gone, vanished. He was alone again, but he could still feel her presence, cold and menacing. He had heard the stories about Route 666, the legends, the whispers. They called it the Devil's Highway for a reason. They said it was haunted by the ghosts of those who had died on the road. People told stories of phantom hitchhikers, their bodies mangled and broken, of ghostly apparitions appearing in the rearview mirror, their eyes filled with malice, of cars stalling for no reason, their engines choked by unseen forces. He had always dismissed them as just stories, urban legends meant to scare people, but now he wasn't so sure. He had seen something tonight, something he couldn't explain. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles turning white. He needed to get off this road, now. But the highway stretched endlessly before him, a ribbon of asphalt leading him deeper into the darkness. The engine sputtered. He glanced at the dashboard. The check engine light was blinking ominously. He swore under his breath. Of course, just what he needed, in the middle of nowhere. He pulled over to the side of the road, the engine sputtering and dying. He tried to restart it, but it wouldn't catch. He hit the steering wheel in frustration. He was stranded. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. Panicking wouldn't help. He needed to think rationally. He checked his phone. No signal. Of course not. He was on his own. He glanced at the surrounding woods. The trees seemed to press in on him, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to grab him. He shivered. He needed to get out of here. He decided to check under the hood, hoping it was something simple. He stepped out of the car, the cool night air hitting him like a wall. He popped the hood and fumbled for his phone, using its flashlight to illuminate the engine. As he leaned over the engine, he noticed something in the reflection of the chrome, a face, staring at him from the back seat of his car, pale, gaunt, with eyes that burned with an unholy light. He whirled around, his heart leaping into his throat, but the back seat was empty. He was alone. He stared at the empty seat, his breath catching in his chest. Had he imagined it? He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. He was tired, stressed. His mind was playing tricks on him. He needed to get a grip. He slammed the hood shut and turned back to the car. He reached for his phone again, his fingers trembling. He had to call for help. There had to be a signal somewhere. He stumbled back into the car, slamming the door behind him. He frantically searched for a signal. Just as he was about to give up hope, he saw it. One bar. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He dialed 911, his fingers fumbling over the keys. The line crackled to life. 911, what's your emergency? A voice answered. He took a deep breath, relief flooding through him. My car broke down, he said, his voice shaky. I'm on Route 666 about... He stopped. The voice on the other end of the line was gone, replaced by a low, guttural growl. A voice that seemed to emanate from the very depths of hell. It sent chills down his spine. He threw the phone down, his heart pounding in his chest. He had to get out of here, now. He scanned the road ahead. In the distance, he saw a faint light. A gas station. Hope surged through him. He didn't care if it was abandoned. It was a chance. A beacon of hope in the darkness. He started running, his legs pumping, his lungs burning. He didn't dare look back. He reached the gas station, gasping for breath. It was worse up close. The building was run down, its paint peeling, the windows boarded up. An air of decay hung heavy in the air, but he didn't care. It was shelter. He tried the door. Locked, he rattled the handle, desperation rising within him. He had to get inside. He scanned the building, looking for another way in. He noticed a window, partially boarded up. He kicked at the boards, splintering wood flying. He squeezed through the opening, cutting himself on the jagged edges of the broken glass. He landed on the dusty floor of the gas station's office. He could hear the wind howling outside, rattling the boarded-up windows. He coughed, his throat dry and scratchy. He saw a newspaper clipping pinned to the wall, yellowed with age. The headline read, "Local couple vanishes on Route 666, foul play suspected." Below it, a photograph of a young couple, their faces frozen in smiles. He recognized the woman, the girl in white, the hitchhiker. He felt a cold dread creep up his spine. He was not alone on this road, and he was not meant to leave. He heard a noise behind him, a soft, shuffling sound. He spun around, his heart pounding in his chest. Standing in the doorway, bathed in the pale moonlight, was the girl in white. Her eyes glowed with an eerie light. She smiled, that same chilling smile that had haunted his nightmares. "Looking for me," she whispered, her voice a raspy whisper that sent shivers down his spine. He stumbled back, his foot catching on a loose floorboard. He fell, hitting his head hard against the concrete floor. He lay there, dazed, as she approached him, her footsteps silent and menacing. He tried to crawl away, but it was no use. She was upon him, her cold, dead hands reaching for him. He closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable. There was no escape. The next morning, a trucker spotted Jack's car abandoned by the side of the road. The engine was cold, the keys still in the ignition. The driver's seat was empty, but the passenger seat was occupied. Sitting there, her white dress stained with blood, was the girl. She smiled at the trucker, a chilling, knowing smile. The trucker quickly drove away, his blood turning to ice. He didn't stop to help. He knew the legends of Route 666. Jack was never seen again. Another victim claimed by the haunted highway. Another soul lost to the darkness that clung to Route 666. The Devil's Highway had claimed another victim, and it would not be the last.